हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यंकरवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। भवानी शंकरो वन्दे श्रद्धाविश्वासरूपिणो याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरं। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीताया पतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगताम् अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय 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 ओम नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We shall begin with the Shanti mantra. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः विषेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्षो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We shall chant from the 12th mantra of the second section, first chapter. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamaayat nastya kritakritena tad vijnanartham sagurumeva bhigachet samit panihi shrotriyam brahmanishtham tasmai sa vidvan upasannaya samyak prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यं प्रोवाचतां तत्त्वतो ब्रह्मविद्याम्. तदेतत् सत्यं यथा सुदीप्तात् पावकात् विस्फुलिङ्गाः सहस्रशः प्रभवन्ते स्वरूपाः तथाक्षराद् विविधाः सौम्यभावाः प्रजायन्ते तत्र चैवापि यन्ति. So we are seeing this Mundaka Upanishad from Atharva Ved. The sincere seeker approaches the teacher and asks him this question कि कस्मिन्नु भगवो विज्ञाते सर्वमिदं विज्ञातं भवति. That what is that one knowing which everything becomes known. So the teacher first reveals that there are two types of knowledge, the lower and the higher, the Paravidya and Paravidya. So all that is said in the Vedas and all the Angas of the Vedas are Aparavidya, and to realize that Supreme Akshara Brahma as our own self is that Paravidya. From that Akshara only this whole world has come into existence. The world is sustained and world again goes back into it. And Aparavidya, in Aparavidya the topic of dharma, dharma, karma, karma phala is revealed. So in the second section of this first chapter, the Upanishad talks about this Aparavidya, which is also equally true. The karma phala, they follow precise laws. But whatever we gain through karma and upasana are limited. And we will not gain freedom from this samsara. In order to gain freedom from samsara, we have to gain vairagya from this world and approach a teacher and gain that knowledge. So tad vijnanartham so kurumeva vigachet samit panihi shrotriyam brahmanishtham. And when a sincere seeker approaches a teacher, the teacher should reveal this Brahma Vidya by which the disciple will become free of this samsara. So these were the topics of the first and second section. Now, in the second chapter, from the second chapter, the Upanishad begins to discuss in detail the topic of that Akshara Brahma, that Paravidya. knowing which everything will become known, and knowing which, realizing which, we will gain freedom from this samsara. So this Brahma is the very swarupa of this world. So what is the nature of this Brahma has to be understood. Hence the Upanishad deals with it in detail. So let us again chant verse number 1, mantra number 1, chapter 2, section 1. Tadetat satyam yatha sudiptat pavakat visfulingaha sahasrashah prabhavante sarupaha तथाक्षराद विविधा सौम्य भावाः प्रजायन्ते तत्र चैवापि यन्ति. The Upanishad says कि तद एतत् सत्यम, that this is satyam, this is absolutely true. Same thing was said about that aparavidya also, about karma and upasana. Also, the Upanishad had used the same term, ki tadetat satyam. And here also it says tadetat satyam. So that aparavidya, which talks about karma, upasana, which talks about this world, is also satyam. But it is that relative reality, which is also called the Vyavaharik Satya, which depends on the absolute Satya. So now the Upanishad will be talking about the absolute Satya. Just as if we take a pot, the pot is also real, the pot is also true, but at the same time the clay is also true. The pot depends on the clay doesn't depend on the pot. So the pot is relative reality, Vyavaharik Satya, and the clay is absolute reality. In the same way, the world is like a pot and that Brahma is like that clay. So world is also real, but it constantly changes. And Brahma is also real and it doesn't change. So here the Upanishad now reveals the nature of that Brahma. So tadetat satyam. And from that Brahma, not only the whole world has come into existence, the world of matter, the world of energy, the world in which we see so many activities happening, so vast world, the infinite sky with the countless galaxies, billions of stars and planets and satellites and beings. So this world of matter has come from that Brahma, but at the same time, infinite jivas have also emerged from Brahma. There are infinite jivas, Brahma is infinite. This world is also infinite. And jivas are also infinite. So from that Brahma alone, the jivas have also emerged. So here the Upanishad gives a very beautiful metaphor. It says कि सुदीप्तात् यथा सुदीप्तात् पावकात् विस्फुलिंगाः सहस्रशः प्रभवन्ते स्वरूपाः तथाक्षरात् विविधा सौम्य भावाः प्रजायन्ते तत्र चैवापि यन्ति. He says, the Upanishad says कि यथा सुदीप्तात् पावकात्, like from a blazing fire. Recently we celebrated Holi, and we light fire, and when we see that fire blazing, it's so amazing sight. And as we look at that fire, it is not only present there where it is lit, but when we observe, we also notice lots of sparks emerging from that fire and just rises up in the sky and spread out everywhere. Lots and lots of sparks of fire emerges from that blazing fire. So yatha sudiptat, very well lit, pavakat, from that fire, visfulingaha, so many sparks, sahasrashaha, countless, prabhavante, they are born. And these sparks of fire, though they are very tiny compared to the blazing fire, but the nature of the spark and the nature of that fire is same, means it is fire only. Though tiny speck of fire, but it is also fire. It also has got all the characteristic of fire. A tiny spark also has all the characteristics of fire. It is shining, it's bright and hot. If it falls on our skin and all, it can burn us. So they are sarupaha, they are of the same nature as the blazing fire. In the same way, tatha, aksharat, from that immutable Brahma, from that supreme Brahma, from that supreme reality, vividhaha somya. Oh my dear student, vividhaha, countless, countless bhavaha, bhava means jivas, countless jivas are born. Devtas, Rishimunis, so many other beings of other lokas, human beings, animals, different varieties of animals, different varieties of birds, different types of fish, different types of insects, different types of microorganisms. Countless, nobody can count the variety of jivas. And they are also born from that supreme Brahma alone. See, just as that blazing fire is there and that spark is there. So in that blazing fire, the firewoods another fuel is burning. But when that spark, when you notice that spark, it also carries with it a tiny little fuel which burns. And when that fuel gets totally burnt, then we just see that spark just disappearing, as though the spark disappears. It becomes unmanifest. So it rises from that fire. It exists as fire and again disappears into that fire only. So tatha aksharat vividhaha somya bhavaha. In the same way, from that Supreme Brahma, countless jivas are born. Prajayante, they are born. And after living their complete life, tatra cha eva api yanti, they again merge back into that Brahma alone. So that Brahma is that supreme reality, which is indicated as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So that Brahma alone is this world, and that Brahma alone are all the jivas. So this is being revealed in this mantra. So let us now read Bhagwan Shankaracharya's commentary and understand each and every word of this mantra. Okay? So Shankaracharya writes कि यद अपर विद्या विषयम कर्म फल लक्षणम सत्यम तद आपेक्षिकम. That we have seen the topic of apara vidya, and the topic of apara vidya is also true, but it is relatively true. Means the truth of that karma, upasana, etc. depends on Brahma, depends on the absolute reality. It doesn't have its own independent existence. Its existence depends on that Supreme Brahma. So Supreme Brahma is the Swarupa of this world. So like the pot depends on clay, this world also depends on Brahma. So it is also Vyavaharik Satya, means we can do Vyavahar, we can interact with this world. It is not an illusion. It is not something which is non-existing. It is existing, but constantly changing. So apekshikam satyam. But this Brahma is absolute reality. So idantu paravidya vishayam. So this, which is the topic of paravidya, that Supreme Brahma, Paramartha Sat, which is the supreme reality, that is also Satyam. That is what is indicated here as Satyam. Tadetat Satyam. As real, as pure existence. So Tadetat Satyam. So yatha bhutam vidya vishayam avidya vishayatvacha anratam itarat. So this Brahma is vidya vishayam, is the topic of vidya. and everything else is avidya vishaya. Therefore it is andratam. Andratam means changing. See, this word andratam has to be understood properly. Andratam is should not be translated as mithya. Andratam is changing existence. Bhagwan uses this term, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji uses this term very often. Anritam or asatyam, it means changing existence. So when we look at the effect and our attention is only on the effect, then we see that effect as constantly changing. Like when we look at this pot, when we just focus our attention only on the pot, then we will see the pot changing, the pot having a shape, having a name. But when our attention is on the clay remains constant. Whatever changes happen in the pot, the clay remains same. So similarly, we can have two drishti of looking at this world. One is karya drishti and another is karana drishti. We can look at this world as an effect. So when we focus on this world as an effect, we will see it constantly changing. But when we understand the cause and we focus our attention on the cause, then we will know the cause never changes. The cause never changes. The cause remains same. So aparavidya is the topic of the changing existence, the changing world. And paravidya is the topic of the changeless supreme existence. So atyanta parokshatvat katham nama pratyakshavat satyam aksharam pratipadyeran iti drishtantam aha. So how should we comprehend that Brahma? Because whatever we see through our senses are the effect only. So how can we comprehend that Brahma? So that Brahma is indicated with the help of this effect. From the effect we have to contemplate on that Brahma which is the cause. From the effect we have to comprehend that Brahma which is the cause. So that is the way we can ascertain the nature of that, understand the nature of that Brahma. So when we look at this world, the world is constantly changing. So this quality of the world, which is seen in the effect, is not there in the cause. So the cause is changeless. The changeless is called Satyam. The world is Jadam, inert. And that cause is Jnanam. World is limited. Lot of various objects are there which are limited. But that cause is unlimited, infinite, Anantam. So not only the world which we see has come from that Brahma, but this seer, the jiva, is also a spark of that same Brahma. That is being indicated here with an example of this fire, blazing fire. So yatha sudiptat sushtu deeptat. So just as from a blazing fire. See, when we have a wood, like a wooden piece is there, in that wood also fire is there. But that fire is unmanifest. That fire remains unmanifest, but it is present in the wood. But we don't see any light, we don't experience the heat, but still that fire is present in the wood. And when we ignite that fire, even when we rub two woods vigorously, the fire which is there unmanifest, it suddenly becomes manifest. And it starts blazing. And the more and more wood if you add, you will find a blazing fire, a huge mass of fire you will see rising up in the heavens. So yatha sudiptat sushtu deeptat iddhat pavakat agnehe visfulingaha agni avayavaha. And from that blazing fire we see sparks coming out. So what are those sparks? Countless sparks, they come out of that fire. So if you observe that spark, you will find in that spark also tiny pieces of that wood is there, which is burning. So tiny piece of wood, that material is burning, and you see it rising there. And a spark will remain as long as that fuel is there within. Once the fuel gets exhausted, then the spark just disappears. It becomes unmanifest again. So from the unmanifest fire, we see the manifested fire, and so many sparks, and again it becomes unmanifest. And there are countless sparks are there which are born. And all of them, their sizes may be different, their intensity might be different, but all these sparks are fire only. Therefore they are called sarupaha. They are of the same rupa, they are of the same nature as that of the blazing fire. So nirgachanti sarupaha agni salakshanaha eva. So if this example is understood, the Upanishad says that in the same way, from that Akshara Brahma, which Akshara Brahma? Which was indicated in the first section of the first chapter also, कि यत् तद अदृश्यम अग्राह्यम अगोत्रम अवर्णम अचक्षुश्रोत्रम अपाणिपादम. In this way, and also the example of the spider etc. was given to indicate how from that Akshar Brahma the world has come into being. From that same Akshar Brahma, the varieties of jivas are also born. So yatha ukta lakshanat aksharat vividhaha nana deha upadi bhedam anuvidhiyam manatvat vividhaha. See now, very important. There are varieties of beings are there. So many infinite are there beings. But what is the difference between one being and another being? Between one jiva and another jiva? The difference is only in the upadhis. The physical body, that is the stula sharir, and the sukshma sharir are called the upadhis. The upadhis of all the jivas are different, but the essential nature of all the jivas are one only. Just as from that fire the sparks arises, so many varieties of sparks are there, but all of them are fire. The difference between one spark and another spark is only with respect to the fuel, with respect to the wooden part which is burning there. But in essence, the fire is same. In the same way, so many varieties of jivas are there. That difference is only with respect to the body, the mind. So with respect to the body, the mind, we say there are many, many jivas. But with respect to the essence of the jiva, it is same. So vividhaha somya yatha jiva deha upadi bhedam anuvidhiya manatvat. Jivas are comprehended with respect to the body. So when we see an animal body, we call that jiva an animal. With a bird body, it is a bird. With a devta sharir, it is devta. With a plant body, it is a plant. But the difference only is with respect to the body. But the essence of all the jivas are same. In the same way, the difference between all the jivas are the bodies, the upadhis, but the essence is that Brahma. And that essence is not born. It is not born. So the jiva by its swarupa is neither born nor does it die. And that is the swarupa of this jiva is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita also, where Bhagavan says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyaha, ajo nitya shashvato yam puranaha, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The essential nature of the jiva is neither born nor does it die. But with respect to the bodies, when the body is born, we say, oh, the jiva is born. When the body dies, we say the jiva has died. So it is our limited vision by which we talk about birth and death. But as far as the jiva is concerned, it is neither born nor does it die, because it is Sakshat, that Brahma alone. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji gives another beautiful example to make this more clear. Before we go to that example, let us analyze this example of fire and the sparks a little bit more. So when we talk about fire, there is that unmanifest fire. Unmanifest fire which is present everywhere. In this world, Akash is there, from Akash only the air is born, and from the air the fire tattva is born. So fire is present. But one may not be able to experience the heat and light. But when that fire expresses, then we experience the heat and light. So that Supreme Brahma is like that unmanifest fire. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is like that unmanifest fire. And from that Brahma alone, that Hiranyagarbha is born. And Vaishvanara is born. So Hiranyagarbha, Vaishvanara are like the blazing fire. The blazing fire. And the various sparks which are born from this blazing fire are like the infinite jivas who are born from Hiranyagarbha and Vaishvanara. The differences are with respect to the upadhis, but the essence is same. Adi Shankaracharya ji gives another example. He says, कि जीवाः आकाशाद इव घटादि परिच्छिन्नाः शुशिर भेदाः घटादि उपादि प्रभेदम अनुभवन्ति एवं नाना नाम रूप कृत देह उपादि प्रभवम अनुप्रजायन्ते. He says, just like Akash. Take the other example of Akash, space. The infinite space, endless, mysterious space. And how many space are there? There is only one space. Infinite and so mysterious. Even science has not understood the complete mystery of space. In the beginning, the science was saying that space is empty, but now they realize that space is not empty. Space has got infinite potential. Everything is mysteriously born in space. Space is very mysterious. So this infinite space is there. From this space alone, air is born. The air is potentially present in space. From that space only air is born. In the field of science also they say that when the world came into existence, they have this theory of Big Bang. So with the Big Bang, when the world got manifested, space was born and air was born. And in the beginning there was only hydrogen and helium, nothing else. Only hydrogen atoms, helium atoms were there. Then slowly they came together and the stars were born. And inside the stars, so many heavy elements were born, and that star got blasted with a supernova. So many heavy elements got spread out everywhere, and so many different planets were born, and different beings were born. So this space is very mysterious. From space only, our Vedanta says, air is born. From air, fire is born. From fire, water is born. And from water, earth is born, matter is born. So when we talk about matter, it is born from space only. So for example, this pot, the pot is born from space. But it has got a different type of nature than that of space. The pot is limited, but space is infinite. Pot has got a shape, but space doesn't have any shape. So it appears to be having some other qualities. But the cause of this pot is space only. So this pot is like the world, which is born from Brahma. And pot is also like the upadhis which we have. Like we have this physical body, the sthula sharir, and we have the sukshma sharir. So the sthula sharir and sukshma sharir are like the pot. But if you observe, this pot also has space in it. Not only the pot itself is made up of space, but there is pure space inside the pot, which we can call pot space. So there is pot space and there is a pot. Now this pot space is not at all different from the space. With respect to the pot, we call it pot space. But by itself, it is nothing but space only, which has got nothing to do with the pot. If this is understood, our body is like this pot, sthula sharir. Our sukshma sharir is also like the pot. Maybe like the air inside the pot. But that Atma, the jiva, is like that space, that pure space. Only when we look from the standpoint of the pot, we call it pot space. But by itself, it is space. In the same way, this Atma, from the standpoint of the body, it is called Pratyagatma, the inner self. But by itself, it is Brahma. I am Brahma. But due to ignorance, because of not knowing myself, I assume myself to be the pot. I assume myself to be only confined to this pot. Means I assume myself to be the body. I assume myself to be the Sukshma Sharir. And the activities of the body and the Sukshma Sharir I take as my own activities. So the activities of the body and the mind and the Sukshma Sharir are doing something, knowing something, and experiencing something. It is the body, the mind, the intellect which does, means there is activity in the body, mind, intellect. There is the knowing thing happens with respect to the mind, intellect, the senses. There is experiencing happening because of the mind, the intellect. These are all activities of the body, the mind, means the Stula Sharir and Sukshma Sharir, which I consider to be my activity. Therefore, I falsely consider myself to be the Karta, Bhokta and Jnata, as the doer, enjoyer, knower. But when I understand myself without these upadhis, when I understand myself free from all upadhis, as I am in my Swarupa, then I will know that I am neither Karta nor Bhokta nor Jnata. I am that Supreme Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So Shankaracharya ji writes कि जीवाः आकाशाद इव घटादि परिच्छिन्ना सुशिर भेदाः घटादि उपाधि प्रभेदम अनुभवन्ति. So just as this Akash appears to be born as pot space or a cup space, so though Akash is one, appears to be born when these different pots are born. The pot space is as though born. It appears to be born. With the birth of the pot space appears to be born. And when this pot is broken, then what happens to the pot space? It merges with the total space. Even when the pot is there, this space is one with the total space only. But when that pot is broken, then the individual space as though merged with the total space. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji writes कि एवं नाना नाम रूप कृत देहोपाधि प्रभवम anuprajayante. So all the jivas are as though born when these various upadhis are born, when the various body and mind are born. And tasmin eva akshare apiyanti. And when this body mind get dissolved, deha upadhi vilayam anu liyante ghatadi vilayam anu iva shushira bhedaha. So when this body mind get dissolved, means when we come to recognize ourselves as we are in our swarupa, then we become one with that Supreme Brahma, just as a pot space become one with the total space. So yatha akashasya shushira bheda utpatti pralaya nimittatvam घटादि उपाधि कृतम एव तद्वद अक्षरस्य अपि नाम रूप कृत देह उपाधि निमित्तम एव जीव उत्पत्ति प्रलय निमित्तत्वम. So just as when the pots are born, we say pot space is born. In the same way, when the bodies are born, we say a jiva is born. So the difference, the talk about birth and death of a jiva is only with respect to the upadhis. But by nature, in its swarupa, the jiva is neither born nor does it die. So this is the whole structure of this vast creation. There is that only one Brahma. But from what standpoint we are observing and experiencing, that is very important. So when we look at this whole thing from a standpoint of ignorance, from the standpoint of identification with the body, mind, etc., we have a different understanding of the whole thing. But when we change our standpoint, the whole truth appears different only. Just as I had given the example once, that the number 9, if it is written on the ground and we are standing opposite to each other, when I look at that number, I see it as 9. But when you look from that standpoint, you see it as 6. You say it is 6. I say it is 9. So from your standpoint, what you are saying is also true. And from my standpoint, what I am saying is also true. Similarly, this world, we can look from the standpoint of its effect. And we can also see it from the standpoint of the cause. We can experience the world as an ignorant jiva. But we can also experience this world as an enlightened jiva. The world remaining same, for an ignorant person, it will give sorrow, pain, fear, and different type of suffering. But when we gain that enlightenment, when we stand in our swarupa and look, then everything is that Supreme Brahma alone. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So please listen to this pravachan again attentively. Take down notes, contemplate, think about it. Even though we have discussed this before also many times, but the thing is that we have to think again and again understand it. We have to again and again understand what is being revealed in the Shastras. That itself is our practice of understanding. That is called practice of understanding, mananam. And with this practice of understanding, our antakarana will become more and more subtle, more and more pure. And finally, we will gain clear, doubtless understanding and gain abidance in this understanding. Okay? So we will see more about this in our class tomorrow. So till then, you take care Be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana. And you can write something in the comments also, other than saying Hari Om. That is also very good. You are greeting me with Hari Om, but you can also give some feedback. You can express what you have understood, what are the things which it became more clear, or if you have any question you can ask, or just general comment you can give. Because this online classes, the problem is that I don't see any one of you, so I have to keep talking. So only when you respond, I will understand, I will get a feedback, and accordingly then I can speak to you. Okay? So we shall meet again tomorrow. So till then you take care. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. बोलिए सियावर रामचंद्र भगवान की जय. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांतिः. हरिः ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम.